to my channel, Enjoy Watercolour Painting. I'm Diana. I live in southwest France, in a little town. It's December, it's cold but sunny, and my thoughts have turned to winter watercolours. And the subject that we're going to do today is quite simply walking home through the snow. At this time of year, it's a lovely thought to be heading for the warmth of a cosy cottage and tramping through the snow. I have here a photograph of a picture that I painted way back in 2010, and I'm going to use this as my inspiration. It's a very loose atmospheric watercolour with lots of lovely colour combinations and techniques to learn. So join with me and let's paint. I hope you can see the image clear enough if I hold it up to the camera. Just to explain the composition, every picture has to have a focal point which draws the eye to it, and this image illustrates that very well. We have the focal point, which is the little cottage way in the background, and tiny people making their way across the snow-covered field. The gate helps us to follow the path they take, and I have footsteps here coming along in the snow. These are the essential components of the picture. A lovely combination of transparent yellow and Winsor blue green shade, with a few other colours added which I'll go into in more detail. So I'm not going to do any preliminary pencil work. We're just going to start right away with the paint. So off we go. As you can see, I have paper already stretched on the board. It's the usual 300 gram Arches fine grain, and palettes ready, 3 palettes, a yellow transparent palette, transparent yellow, a blue palette which consists of manganese blue, Winsor blue green shade and cobalt turquoise, and then an Indian red and Payne's grey palette too. I'm just wetting the paper thoroughly with a large mop brush so that it's shiny wet. Now, always when adding a wash, which is what I'm going to do for a start, we begin with the yellow. It's easy to lose yellow, it's overcome by other colours, and I'm going to use a mix of blues and yellow on this wash, but because blue and yellow make green, I have to be careful that the two don't mix. So as you see, I have yellow in the middle of the paper, and then the blues I've applied around the area. I'm just moving it a little, but I'm being careful not to let the blue run into the yellow. It's just the frosty feeling of light, low light in the winter time, and the bluey cast to the snow, which is the effect I want to create. And so I'm being careful about how I move the board so that the yellow isn't overrun. And any little dry spots, I'm just wetting them to break the surface tension. I don't want the wash to be even. I want it to be like drifts of snow, some white areas and some shady areas. I have the original photograph to hand, and now the paper is just slightly damp, so I want to have a frosty effect near where the bush is going to be, so I'm adding some salt crystals. I think it might be a little bit too late, but we'll see how we go. The tree line, which is part of the destination of my picture, part of the focal point in effect, is about 2/3 of the way up the paper, and I'm just adding a hint of some of the blues, very diluted, and very lightly with a fine liner brush, just indicating the branches of the bush where I did already put the salt crystals, which have worked to a certain extent. It is difficult to see them from this point of view, but this just gives me an idea of the composition. Remember, this tutorial is all about creating a focal point, and everything in this picture is going towards taking your eye through the picture to that focal point. And this helps to make your painting more interesting and helps to draw people in, which is what we want to achieve. So now I'm really going to focus on that focal point, which is a little cluster of buildings almost on the tree line. But I'm going to do them in more detail with more contrast, and this way they will stand out and catch the eye of the viewer as they look at the picture. So I'm taking the trouble to do some contrast, some darker colour, little rooftops really. We will see this in more detail later, but the light is just catching the wet paint. But the position of it is important, not in the middle of the paper, but off to one side. The focal point is a point to attract the eye, and so this is why we have the contrast, and we try and create the contrast. From then on, all other details in this painting are geared towards taking our eye towards that focal point. I'm working quickly, but of course this is speeded up. And I'm not working with a large brush. I'm using a small liner brush and working a little bit more on the pine trees to the left, which help to reinforce that tree line and give us a proper destination. But this is just the initial composition, if you like. Again, we haven't used any pencil work, just really getting the proportions right with judging where this point should be on the paper. And using my blue palette with a little bit of my Payne's Grey and Indian Red added to add some gentle greys. The base of the trees is always darker, so I'm just adding a little wash of darker colour. And you'll notice that since the background wash has dried, I still have the yellow area in the centre of the picture and going up into the sky. This is important. It gives light, it gives that feeling of a frosty coldness, and it enhances the whole painting really. Painting the snow, it's never really white. Snow takes on the colours of the sky and just the feel of the day. I'm using my liner brush now to kind of just wet the areas where I want to have two fence lines, again leading the eye towards that focal point. But I'm doing them very gently and very subtly now. I don't want them to be too stark. And the gate, of course, is an important part of this picture. And because it's just recently snowed and the snow is lying in drifts and in the bush and against all the fence posts, I'm only actually painting the dark areas which are snowless. But this will help to give me the correct line. And notice my fence posts aren't straight and not really in line. It's better to have a really uneven fence artistically than a straight and neat looking one. So it's called artistic license, if you like, but I like the posts to be a little bit wonky. I'm joining them up with a slight wash of colour, and again using the blues in the background wash to create that drift of snow which is banked up against the fence posts. So now I have a kind of a sort of a plan. We can see where the destination is. We have the gate just briefly there, just quickly there, and we have the start of our snow-laden bush on the right. So now I've reinforced the focal point a little, added a little bit more contrast, and I'm just adding some small detail, tiny detail to the fence and the gate, which gives access to the cottage. It's a good test of a painting. It must, if you look at your painting from a distance and people, or if other people look at it and are attracted by it, they'll want to go up close and see the detail. And if they look at the detail, they're drawn into the picture. And that is a picture that works. So not only do we need to have a good overall effect, but we need to have that detail which catches the eye. And this is exactly what we're doing. So I have a line of fence posts coming down towards the gate, and you see that gives me the opportunity to create the perspective by having the posts, the nearer posts, larger than the ones further away. And I'm just adding a little bit more form to these in the foreground, just to give an idea of how the picture is unfolding. The salt crystals that I put on the painting at the time we did the first wash have created some nice effects below the bush, but now I'm adding some colour, some of the blues, using my liner brush, but on the side of the liner, and adding the blues to give the impression of the snow-laden branches. I can use all the blues I have on the palette, the manganese blue and the cobalt turquoise, combined give some lovely icy blue colouring. Even speeded up, this process takes a while to do, but it's very satisfying, and you can have lighter and darker shading. Because of course you've got the areas which are more in shadow, which are going to be more intensely blue. And this will also give me the opportunity to put on more salt crystals here to reinforce that icy look, and that can be then left until the painting is totally dry before the salt crystals can then just be brushed off to see what effect we've got. Here we are, just sprinkling a few in the damper areas, and then I'll leave it to dry. Now we're getting close up and personal with the detail, and I have my little people to put in. I hope you can see it clearly enough. It's just a suggestion of people, perhaps one adult and a child and then a little dog making their way across a snowy meadow. They do leave a trace of footprints, which I'm just suggesting with the liner brush and washing with water so they're not too strong. The child and the dog, of course, won't go in a straight line. I think the adult will trudge along there in the snow, as you do. coming to the gateway, the threshold of the gateway where we see a bank of snow will be broken by the footsteps, and so we can use some of the blue palette just to disturb the line as if they've trudged through the drift. And there you can see we have the figures in the background now, heading towards the little cottage, which hopefully is drawing the eye and is the focal point of this picture. Now I'm concentrating on the foreground, where we have more shading and more detail. And when you're painting snow and snow drifts, it's very important to let the water flow the pigment so you get smooth, gentle curves, because snow's like that, isn't it? It covers the land and covers up the imperfections and gives us a lovely carpet of white, which, as we see, isn't always white. And now I'm putting in the footprints. Now try not to be too defined with these footprints. It's just heel toe and alternate, not really too defined, otherwise they don't look right. And smudge them with your mop brush when you've done them, so they're kind of blended, and they have areas which are more visible and not. And of course they head towards the open gateway. I'm enjoying painting this picture. The first time I painted it, I sold the picture. I can't remember where the picture was sold to, but I know it was somewhere very warm. I think the people really wanted to enjoy a snow scene, even on the hottest of days. I think it was maybe somewhere in America, in the USA. Georgia springs to mind, but I'm not entirely sure. Now I've added shading under the bush because that's the shady area, and the salt crystals have done their work and given us a gentle icy look. And I'm taking the shaded area up amongst the texture that the snow crystals have given that part of the painting. The salt crystals, sorry. And now I'm adding a few more little drifts with, I don't know if you live in a snowy area, that you'll know when the snow is deep, you just get little spiky bits of dry grasses sneaking out from the tops of snow drifts, and that's how it is. When I lived in the north of Scotland, we would often see that. There we go, a little bit more definition of the branches of the snowy bush now, so that we don't lose that. Just adding a little bit more emphasis now to the footprints, so that some of them are more defined than others, and again will catch the eye to take us past that snowy bush, through the gate, across the field and back home. I think I'm going to leave it there. There may be some minor adjustments to make, but here we have the finished version, You can still see the yellow highlight and the focal point, the destination, which takes our eye. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it informative and interesting, and it's given you an insight into the importance of making sure that you have a focal point or a destination in your painting to draw the viewer in to make that journey through your picture. Don't forget, it's all about the journey, all about the enjoyment. I want you to enjoy your watercolour painting. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave any comments you may have. Until the next time, bye.